Tom, one of the things that we were talking about on the show, obviously talking about CLA as an overall program, and we talked a fair amount about like the beginning of the life cycle. So I think it was design,
build,
design,
transfer.
Thank you.
Operate and retire.
The operate and retire is what I'm curious about.
Okay.
I've worked for several different cloud providers. Once we have these servers up and running, we need to maintain them.
Mm-hmm.
And the world doesn't stand still. There's vulnerabilities that are always being discovered. There's maybe even new features being released. So I'm curious, can you walk me through how you're thinking about that operate and retire phases of the overall life cycle?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think maybe this would be useful is to use an analogy.
Okay.
If we can just think about today, we're being asked to go to Mars.
Okay.
Okay. So
okay.
you and I, we're
right.
Gonna
Let's go do it. We're going to Mars.
And so it's going to take us years to build a spaceship that's going to get us from Earth over to Mars.
Right.
And when we do that, we finally we launch and we get up into space and we start heading out to Mars. Our job's not over.
Right.
Our job's not over because that spaceship needs to last. I don't know how long it takes to get to Mars, but anyway,
a while.
Whatever, it's going to take a while. It has a life, and so, but there are things that can happen between here and Mars that maybe could not have been known.
Right.
That's not something that you can just assume that, oh, you've thought through everything. Maybe there's new discoveries. There's things that happen. And so the fact that you designed the spaceship years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and you've launched it, now you get to solve whatever challenge gets put in front of you between Earth and Mars, and you
Right.
got whatever you got.
Right.
And so that's the same way that we think about our platforms, whether
That's
it's a
interesting.
client platform or a server platform.
Yeah.
It's not just enough. It takes us years to build these CPUs.
Yep.
They have billions of transistors per CPU on them, plus the rest of the support chips. We validate it. We do all that, and that incorporates the best knowledge that exists on the planet at the day that we launch this product. But that isn't enough. The platform itself now goes out into the wild. And whether it's a client, which literally is traversing the globe, every corner of the globe, or servers, we don't exactly know how that will all be used.
Yeah.
We can't envision that.
Yeah.
But we do know we have to keep those updated and secure and as safe as possible, because there is still people that are trying to, they're inventing new ways to come after those platforms. So that's the challenge that we face, but it's also for us, we think, something that energizes us.
Right.
Is that innovation doesn't stop when you launch the product. It continues over the life. And some of these platforms last 5, 7, maybe in some cases 10 years.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. That's a really great analogy that, you're now in space, you've got all the tools that you brought with you, and hopefully the system has been designed in order to give you those tools once you're up there.
That's right.
I'm also curious, I don't know that I want to have this in the analogy, but the retire stage, right?
Okay.
So I'm tossing out my spaceship or what have you. I'm now on Mars.
Yeah, we're probably out of the
right.
the analogy.
Yeah, that analogy probably breaks down. But I'm curious. I think everyone thinks about wiping data from drives,
Mm-hmm.
but beyond that, what are you thinking about in terms of the retire phase of this overall process?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. The reality is it does fundamentally have to do with data. That's primarily where our focus is. And,
Okay.
and today there's a lot of companies today that just rip out the drive and
Right.
they'll put a nail through them or drill them or whatever, because they just don't trust that the data can be safely erased. And so part of our challenge is addressing that problem, because that's a tremendous waste problem. I mean, just
Yes.
trying to do the right thing, not just for the globe, but also from a cost perspective, there's value in these devices. So when we talk about retirement, particularly on the client side, these devices, let's say they're 3 years old, they still have a residual value. So if you can show what's in that PC, how has it been maintained? Is it the same battery that was originally built back in the day from the factory, or the same screen, or has it been changed or modified? These are all data points that help establish a value. Just like your car, when you bring it in for service and they log what's changed, what hasn't changed,
Right.
how's it been serviced. That same data can be used to help establish a residual value for the PC. And so that you're not ripping out the drive and wasting that money and cost associated with the drive, if you could really get rid of the data in a trusted way, then you have not only that data about how the device lived over its life, but also trust that the data is safe. And now you've got a residual market to go off and sell the device.
That's really nifty. So I can see how you're thinking about that part of the life cycle. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. You bet.